And it made me commit on a whole other level to myself on like what are some of the things in our family and in our marriage that I want to be doing more of and things I need to start doing less of. Welcome to the Weaponized Marriage podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Hewitt.
And Ryan Hewitt is here.
Is present.
Go ahead. This is your stage. So you kick it off.
Ooh, it's my stage. Well, Good thing I cried before we did this episode then. Maybe get it out of my system. All right. Today's topic is going to be, well, our last one, we talked and kicked it off with the whole story behind like watching some of the Charlie Kirk stuff go down. And now I think this is going to be kind of like a follow-up episode because now they just had the memorial service. And if you didn't, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you are on, if you didn't get a chance to watch Erica Kirk's speech, I think it was very, very moving, honoring, and there's I certainly took a lot from it, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I had Ryan watch it, I watched it, and so we're going to go back and forth on that a little bit.
Okay, go for it. So what was your takeaway from it?
So my first takeaway that I really stood out was one of the things that I really loved she led off with is, I don't know if you picked this up or remembered it, but she talked about how he had done a talk 2 years prior in Glendale at, State Farm Stadium where they had the memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about how one of his favorite scriptures was Isaiah, and it was about something about like send me. I don't know the exact scripture. Did you hear this part?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And about how she never knew what he was going to talk about, and then she happened to be in the audience, heard that, and then she went backstage and she was like pissed at him that like he said that, like he put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was like, dude, I had chills when she said that because I was like, wow. But I think that it is impossible not to recognize that he wouldn't have wanted it any other way based on what she shared from her life with him. And I think the biggest thing that stood out, there was lots of things that stood out, but that was the thought that the one that grabbed me that like just made me be totally in attention. But I really particularly loved the stuff she covered about their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like that she shared some of their side with her marriage in like the Institute of Marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was another point. And then one of the other ones that was huge for me that stood out, and I think I'm still digesting, and I just said it and you were like, where'd you get that? And I was like, she talked about how he had, again, another piece of scripture. It's actually one of my favorite parts of scripture. I don't know what it's in, but it's like something along the lines of he who begins good works will complete them. In you will complete them. And I think that's a Matthew. I think it's from the book of Matthew. And she talked about how he had incomplete work, meaning he started, but he didn't leave this earth with unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
And that one part stopped me in my tracks because I was like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of people in this world that are walking around with carrying the load of unfinished business. And what that meant to me after I had digested it was not only surrendering with full faith to God's plan, which obviously he was very talented and faithful at, but I think that what really stood out for me on that moment was when she kind of transitioned to her family life at that point, but then it brought me back to forgiveness. Because I remember which obviously was the point that got really, like, taken. I mean, man, that was so powerful. I mean, when she like, looked up at the sky and she said, "I forgive him," her husband's killer. And I thought about the magnitude of that moment. And I read some stuff after about of a couple people that actually were there.
Mhm.
And they talked about how in that moment it was like there was a surreal presence. It was a holy presence. Um, and I feel like I'm lucky enough that I actually had a moment like that when, ironically, when 9/11 happened, when I was in Hawaii and I was in an event with Tony Robbins and when 9/11 happened. And at that event, there was probably, I think there was probably 3 to 5,000 people there at that event. Um, I was with my mom. My mom was there as well, and I can remember, like, when everybody came into the room, and obviously everybody knew what happened, and this is where, like, regardless of about how you feel about Tony Robbins, he gets a lot of really great feedback, and then he gets a lot, but that man is an amazing man. And he was able to unite this room, but that feeling of, like, complete unity and a presence that could not be explained, I felt in that moment on 9/11 when he brought that room together. And now think about the magnitude in his memorial. Charlie Kirk's memorial is that, like, now you're talking 60,000 plus people in a stadium. And when, like, she looked up and she was like, "I forgive him," and it just brought me to, I mean, total emotional, release for me of, like, just thinking about how what that would take to be able to do that, and then thinking about how, like, when you don't forgive someone, it's you that actually really suffers.
Mhm.
And it made me really think about how, like, Steven and our therapist has often talked about this, is that, like, forgiveness is an act. It's a continual choice. He's like, "It's not a one-time event."
Mhm.
And that moment really reminded me of that, and it brought me to just really thinking about how I wanted to talk about this on the marriage podcast today because, like, forgiveness, is something that I don't think a lot of people, like, consciously think about. Um, who do you need to forgive? Maybe it's forgiveness in yourself. What do you need to forgive in your marriage? Um, what do you need to forgive with your maybe your kids, or your extended family? It just made me really start to think about, like, how we don't give attention to, like, hey, what are things that,
Yourself.
yeah, yeah, I think forgiveness starting with yourself too. So anyways, that was the major, major things that I really took away. And then of course, because we're on the marriage podcast, I really, really loved that she gave some insight to her marriage with Charlie. And when she talked about the that he wrote her a note every Saturday and he never missed one until obviously he was not there to do that. And I think that what really stood out there was what cemented the message for me was about how she shared that he would end every note the same, and that was, "How can I serve you better?" And I think that was a really strong reminder for me specifically of, like, hey, that is the point of having a marriage, is, like, loving, supporting, and serving one another. Even though, like, in the past, um, again, another Bible scripture is like, husbands, love your wives, wives, submit to your husbands. And I remember when I first heard that one, I was like, what the actual F does that mean? Um, and when she shared that, I was like, I think I'm starting to understand more of what that means. And I think that we're all works in progress, but I think that watching that memorial service brought so many amazing points to the forefront of like our marriages and our like making changes in our marriages, in our homes. It echoes out into the world. And it made me commit on a whole other level to myself on like what are some of the things in our family and in our marriage that I want to be doing more of and things I need to start doing less of.
Yeah. So are you all done talking about it?
For now.
So I think there's a lot like all of us can take away from that. I think women, so hold on. I think men, basically what they could take away from that was like, just that act of him writing her a note, just thinking of her and his family and taking the time to do that and asking how he could serve her better. I think all men could take advice from that and take a lesson from that, in that like that alone could just completely transform your marriage. And I think the message that like, and I think a lot of women heard that was like, wow, I wish my husband would do that. Now, on the other hand, I think all men were listening to that service, and what they heard and what I heard was, oh my God, this woman like got her husband so much. Like if you heard her, she was like, I didn't give Charlie a hard time when he was on the road a lot and when he was away a lot and he worked a lot, because I believed in his mission. And she didn't give him a hard time. She didn't like get pissed that he was like away for a long time. She's like, I just wanted to create a home that was peaceful and harmonious. And when he got home, he just like had a sanctuary and a place to like
soft landing,
feel that. Yeah. Soft landing. Where she would just like pour into him and like let him spend time with the kids and like just feel that love, that made him excited to want to come home. And I think all men who go out into the world and work so hard for their families, that's all they want. They want just peace. They want to come home to like a wife that like adores them and like
is excited that they're there.
Excited that they're home. Yeah. Like all a guy wants is like, oh my God, my wife is like drops everything, comes and gives me a huge kiss and a hug. And the kids see that. And the kids are only going to follow suit with what mom does. They see mom super excited to see dad. They're excited to see dad too. So I think a lot of women could really take a lesson from that. And I know it's hard. I know it's like, fuck, I'm with the kids all the time. I'm doing all this like prep and like handling all their business while, dad's off hunting buffalo or whatever. But it is a balance, right? So there has to be service on both sides, right? So, and I think that, and this is why, like, I didn't know Charlie's work that well. Like I liked a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, when I heard clips and stuff, but I never heard like him speak for any length of time. But I know one thing for certain is he was very, very passionate about, and he stood firm on you called it the Institute of Marriage, or just like the covenant of marriage and what it means and what it is there to do in the world, right? How man and woman can come together and co-create and create not just a family, but influence and, just like a good example for whatever it is, your children to be able to do the same thing. I know he believed a lot in marriage, and he was a huge proponent of it. And he talked about, like the benefits of it and why it exists and how it is like, biblical, and how it's God's plan for man and woman to come together and do something like that. Because, again, it's like, oh, well, we hear that, I guess, mammal species, most of them are not monogamous. Like we're not really supposed to do this, but the more and more that we practice being married and we learn about marriage and we are creating a marriage and a relationship together, the more and more you see the fruit of that work. And how you can't do that if all you decide to do is just like pleasure yourself. And I think this is the generations.
Or if you press the easy button.
Yeah, I think it's like a me generation, right? It's like, how can I make sure that I'm feeling good and I'm doing what I want to do and it's all about me, right? And if you make it all about you, then you will fail in marriage. You'll fail in business. You'll fail in most things at life if you're taking a me approach versus a we approach. And the Bible is very clear that it's, Jesus talked about how he, the number one thing is to serve others, right? To be of service, to make sure that you are pouring into others. Like that's, whatever it is, if you think that's the secret of life, but it's all about gratitude and service. The more you are in gratitude and in service, and you could tell that Erica is picking up, like she believed in his mission and his message of that so much that she is now, going to take over as CEO of Turning Point USA and going to continue his work.
I mean, the fact that the name, there's nothing ironic about the fact that it's named Turning Point.
No, it's appropriately named.
Like,
yeah,
can I tell you something about service though that I don't want to lose it before I forget it?
Yeah, I could tell you're like, oh, I got something. I'm gonna stop listening to you until I get.
So before this happened, because we've been going up to the cabin so much, I've been watching church online. I haven't got to go to actual church in person.
Me neither.
So a couple weeks ago, there was one weekend we decided not to go to the cabin because the weather was going to suck. And I went to church that day. And it was a day where I was like off. I was feeling really off. I was feeling really called to go to church. And I don't like to admit that because like you don't need to feel called to go to church. It just needs to become a habit, right? But that can look differently for everybody. I'm very open to that. But there was a guy that worked at the coffee store that's the front of our church. And he had a shirt on and it said, "You can't throw stones at others if you're too busy washing feet." And I remember I read his shirt and I told him, I was like, wow, I really like that shirt. And I was like, I don't even need to go into church because that shirt was what I needed to see today. And what it meant to me, I actually was telling one of my clients the next day, I was telling one of my clients we were talking about this, is that I was like, if you're too busy serving, whether it's your clients, whether it's your kids, whether it's your spouse, you don't have time for petty bullshit and judgment and hate. And it just like, I remember I didn't even walk in the door and I was sobbing because I saw that kid's shirt. And I was like, because I was like, that was what I was supposed to see that day. And I don't know who needs to hear that, that's going to listen to this right now, but that just hit. But when you were just talking about the service, it just reminded me so much. Is like, just remember, is that like, if you're too busy focusing on washing feet, AKA serving, in whatever capacity that is for you in your life, you don't have time to
That's true.
be in bullshit.
Right. And that's what I was saying. Like, if all you're worried about is like, what's in it for me, or what can I do to make sure that I'm entertained today or feeling good? And trust me, we're all guilty of it. But you're right. The more that you are like in service of others, the more you become filled up too, because we're given this, like, I don't know what it is. It's just like, it's an inborn, I think, fulfillment to help others. Right. So it makes you feel important and fulfilled and useful. Yeah. Like, to feel useful is like, there's no better feeling than, to be like, to help others essentially.
Yeah. And I think too, is that like, you, just to come back on that loop of like the service thing, is like, how in your marriage do you really serve each other? Or are you living in this marriage where it's like, where we lived for a long time, which is like tit for tat. I'll do this if you do this. Like,
well, it's horse trading.
It's the horse trading, which is not sustainable. It gets old. It gets boring. It gets tension like driven. It's instead of like the serving is more. And when I say serving, I don't mean serve to the point where it incapacitates you to help yourself. Like, I think there's like, or lose yourself. I think that like, with, especially with women, you have to be super careful when you talk about this, because women are natural servicing, like, and caretakers. It is like part of their makeup, because they're going to birth a generation and have to provide, like, take care of them. And especially in the generation, like my mom's generation, it was very like, that's what you did, is you were like, that generation is so caretaking focused. And I think that there's been a lot of like backlash on that lately, is like, of like, hey, don't become so service where you lose yourself or you lose your own identity. Um, and one of the other things I got from Erica, like, was like, her words just reminded me of like so much more of like filling my life up with more God and talking more openly about it. Like, I find myself this week like talking about clients, I have no idea where they stand, some of them. And I was using God on my podcast, talked about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
before you get off of that, I think it's important because here's the difference, right? Between, because I talk about all the time, like women especially are guilty of only worrying about what everybody else needs and not giving themselves what they need.
Yeah.
Like all the way down to like, you don't even fucking work out because all you do is fucking drive your kids
I know we talk
around.
about this all the time.
You don't eat properly because you're always in a hurry and being a free Uber. You are like only servicing like what the household needs and not filling yourself up. So you're fucking miserable and bitchy and critical. And this goes for guys too. It's like, oh, you're only worried about like making money and, you know, not giving your family the time they need, whatever, you know, it goes both ways. But here's the difference I figured out, between the balance of like, you need to fill your cup, right? Men need alone time. They need like to be with other men. Like they need fellowship. They need like physical work. They need to be like, to be able to produce. And then they need like love and affection from their family. And women, they need safety, they need security, and they need like same thing, love and affection. But the difference is like when you're co-creating, when you're creating together as a team, then there is no like, you're not pulling the rope. I'm pulling all the rope. It's like, oh, well, you're not contributing to this, that, or the other, or, oh, well, you're not, you know, contributing to the bottom line, whatever it is. Like, you don't think that way anymore, because it truly is like a co-creation, and it's a togetherness.
Yeah. It's me versus we.
Yeah. So like, if you're operating in like as an individual in your money, like you're going to fail in marriage. If you're operating individually, like you're looking after all of the kids' shit and the other one's totally disconnected from it, that's not going to work, right? There has to be, it's not even like division of labor, but it's just like, it's a communication that happens where you're creating the marriage and the life and the vision of where you're going together. But I think so few married, and you could tell like her and Charlie like had that fucking down.
Yeah. How was she able to step into CEO? She knows exactly what he needed.
Well, she believed in his mission, like maybe more than he did, like just as much.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And the thing is, like, I don't think all married couples have that, where it's like, we have a shared vision together where we are working on this mission, vision, purpose. Like maybe the more and more you work on that, I think the stronger your marriage will get. Like, I believe that.
Well, I also think too, one of the things that I think has been really strong for us is that when we were both doing Warrior, which is a program we both did together, but individually at the same time, every quarter we would set targets and we would come together. And last year was the first time, last year about this time, like November, when we went to Mexico. I remember that first day we were in Mexico, we went and we brought our targets.
Yeah, we should do that again in Mexico in 2 weeks.
And we shared them. And one, it's amazing about when you commit to doing a process like that, where it's like you start realizing not only the other person's targets, like what they're chasing after, but like you start magnifying each other. because you know that this is what this person's like. You start to supporting them in a different way because you're like, hey, this person, just like the cabin, that was a very mutual relationship, what we call balanced target that we were chasing together.
Yeah,
but now what I
wasn't
feel like we're
Go ahead.
doing is we're starting to magnify, like, I don't know, this is me, and I feel like it's you too, is like, we're really starting to magnify, like, I know that there's a lot of crevices in my game right now that need to be filled up with God.
You need to fill your crevices.
Yeah, physically too.
Oh, okay. Let me help you with that.
Not that crevice. But like I think that there's a lot of, and if I thought about like, hey, okay, how can I have more God in my life? I A couple weeks ago, I didn't know like how to even answer that. But I feel like I definitely don't feel like I have all the answers, but it's just like I'm feeling a continual pull of like make more time for me. Just like it's when you want to be close to your spouse means that's going to require you to make more time for that person.
Mm.
Um and I think that that's a huge like also like overall takeaway I took just from really absorbing that service was that like again when she said how how he would say how could I serve you better is like how can I serve my family better? What are some things I need to be doing to serve my marriage better or my spouse better? What does that look like? I've already thought about like one thing that I'm starting to do with Lily is like she's been sleeping in and I have to wake her up. Now, the first couple weeks of school, it looked something like this. Let's go. We got to go. You got to get up. Like, and then all of a sudden I was like, dude, that's not what I want my kids wake up to look like. And so we've been doing like I basically pick her up and I hug her and I pretend she's a little baby again. And like I've noticed already this week, we've had so many better days because it hasn't been me being chaotic mom. It has been me being connected mom.
That's good.
And now I'm starting to pay attention to like this week, we don't get to spend a lot of time during the week together. And just by nature right now. And but I'm looking at like where are those little spots where we can. And like what do those look like? You
Yeah,
know?
like at night when you start to try to do your work at 8:30
Yeah,
PM?
and I know that that's not what I wanna be doing. So that
Okay.
means I need to figure out other ways that I get it done.
Well, is there anything else you wanna say about
I don't know. Are you complete?
Yes.
You're complete?
Yeah, I already told you what I got out of it. Like, it's the co-creation thing and the shared vision, and, if there's forgiveness getting in the way of that, then that's what you need to work on, and
Okay.
if it's like you don't communicate about your collaboration in what you're creating, because like, listen, like, nothing that you want to build happens by default. It
Mhm.
doesn't happen by accident. So maybe you have to sit down and talk about like, hey, this is what I want our marriage to look like.
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as like, I want to have more sex, or I want to have more vacations as a family.
Mhm.
I want to have more time together where I want to eat dinner at the table together at
Mhm.
6:30 p.m. Whatever you
Can be
value,
really simple.
yeah, whatever you value, like, you have to just do it on purpose, because otherwise it won't happen by
Mhm.
default. You can just keep talking about it, or you could take action and start to make it happen.
Yeah, and I think it's like pick the one thing this week that maybe you would start to do it differently. Might not stick, might not work, but like at least you're being starting to be conscious of like, hey, here's something just like I was saying with Lily that I don't love about when my morning starts like that.
Mhm.
Um I don't love when I have one more thing to do and you wanna sit down, you know? So I have to figure out where else I can put that,
Mhm.
right? That's like and that's something I'm working on myself.
Yeah, we're all working on it.
Mhm.
All right, wrap it up.
Thank you for listening to the
That's right.
Weaponized
Hit.
Marriage podcast. As always, if you enjoyed this conversation, share it with someone else who might enjoy it. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time
Well,
on.
we switched it to, we're doing bi-monthly now instead of weekly.
Oh, yes, we're going to start switching to bi weekly Because
bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly.
Fortnight. You know what fortnight is?
No.
Every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, that's fortnights is 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So we're switching to a fortnight schedule.
Yes.
And we're doing that because that was one of our conscious choices, to start this routine where we do this connection time as a conversation, and then we have therapy every other week.
That's right.
So we're going to give that a go.
All right. We will see you guys next time.